Hi everyone and welcome to NameHero.com. I'm Ryan, the founder and CEO. Today I want to talk about object caching with NameHero. This is a video I've wanted to put out for quite some time on our YouTube channel, and also want to get something out on the blog. And it's something I've just kind of been putting off because I don't know if many people are aware of what object caching is and how to use it at NameHero. So I was speaking actually today to one of our NameHero affiliates, and he was specifically asked me if we supported object caching because he's actually formulating a big review on his website about different web hosts that provide this, especially in a shared environment. So I, of course, went through the steps with him and showed him for his usage, and then I thought this would also be an appropriate time to get a video out so I could also send it over to him to show him the details here on my end. So first, let's talk about what object caching is. So I'm going to head over here really quick to Lightspeed's website, and this talks about using object caching with the Lightspeed web server and specifically with the Lightspeed caching plugin that comes with WordPress. Of course, we support object caching for things outside of WordPress, but I would assume that the majority of customers here at NameHero do use WordPress in some capacity or another, and it's probably going to be, it is going to be the most requested reason why people want to use object caching. So I'm going to kind of do this whole video and tutorial assuming that you're going to use it for WordPress, and if you're not, you still kind of take the same steps to enable it. And then, of course, if you have your own application, then it's up to you to kind of configure that specific application. If you have any questions, you can always ask our support team and they can point you in the right direction or lead you to the appropriate resources to make sure object caching is working on your account. So let's talk about this in terms of how it works with Lightspeed and also what object caching is in general. So basically, you can Google this, Memcache, LSMCD, and Redis, object cache, Lightspeed in Google, and you'll get this article. And you can copy this URL if you want to pause this video. It's not too long, but it is kind of lengthy. But anyways, an object cache, it stores the results of expensive and or frequent database queries in a way that makes them easy to retrieve and eliminates the need for repeated access to the database. So in layman terms, if your WordPress website, it's got two parts to it. One, it's got the files of WordPress, and two, it's got the database. The files, that's what contains all of your images, your themes, your plugins, but then you've got the database, and that's kind of what the brains are behind your WordPress website. That's where all your posts are stored, your usernames and your passwords, and all the content that you produce inside of WordPress. So when someone loads your website, when they type in whatever your domain is and your website comes up, it retrieves the files at first, and then it pulls everything from the database into those files, which makes up your website. So object caching allows the web server to actually cache these database queries. So in a sense, it makes the website load faster. So when visitors are hitting the website, then they go to the next page, it's not having to make these repeat database calls, and it just makes everything a lot faster. So for the most part, Lightspeed's WordPress caching plugin and any other WordPress caching plugin, it speeds up the site. So it caches like all of your dynamic resources, your cascading style sheets, your JavaScript, and your CSS. So there's no need for the server to pull those every single page. It's caching them on the user's local machine or caching them on the server. So that way the website loads really fast. So in turn, the object caching, it does that for the database. Now, if you notice through here, and I'm not going to read all of this because you can read it on your screen now, or you can go back and read through it here. Essentially, Lightspeed's WordPress caching plugin, it makes it so object cache is not really needed that often because it's already taking out the bulk of that. And you can see down here, they put a note. If you have a site that's fully cached by Lightspeed, you won't use object cache very often. Object cache is only necessary when WordPress is building a page through PHP. If PHP is not being invoked and minimizing PHP usage is the goal with Lightspeed cache, then there are no queries to process and therefore nothing to look up in the object cache. So again, for the most part, this is not needed. So if you're not using object cache and your site's loading fast, then there's probably no need for it. But it is a feature that's out there and that we do provide free of charge here at NameHero with all of our hosting packages. So if I go over here to NameHero, and you look at our hosting plans here, this is true for all of our web hosting and reseller hosting packages. So if you're a reseller and you're offering this to your customers, they also get this feature for free. Now, if you have one of our VPSs, you actually have to have Lightspeed on the server to use Lightspeed Cache, which is an additional licensing fee, but we have the option on our sign up page there to add it. And also you can install Redis or Memcache easily inside of your VPS, and our team, of course, can help you do that. It's just a couple quick commands and some quick configurations configuration to set it up. So the VPS is not configured out of the box, but it still is possible to use all of these features as well. Now, if I go to our web hosting plans, you can see these are the most popular packages at NameHero. You know, these are where our small businesses, our WordPress developers, our everyday site owners, you know, this is what they're looking to get web hosting for their website. Now, way back when, you know, before NameHero was even founded, it was almost unheard of to provide these features in a shared hosting account. And, you know, this is one of our goals at NameHero is to offer extremely fast shared hosting. And we do this with our cloud infrastructure, with Lightspeed web server, and also object caching. So if you have any one of these packages, this is available for you. Now, if I head over here to one of our competitors, and this is A2, and I love A2 hosting. You know, I personally know the team, and I think they do a really good job. So, you know, you might decide to sign up there, and you know, no hard feelings. I always recommend on our videos to try more than one host, figure out which one works best for you. But I'm pulling them up in this video because I just want to let you know that, you know, the majority of web hosts out there, this is more of a premium feature, and it's not something that's available in all of the accounts. So you can see they include this inside of their Turbo account. So it's not included in their Lite and their Swift packages. So, and this is true with a lot of other web hosts out there. So I'm not specifically trying to pick on A2. I'm just telling you that, you know, it's not an option that you see very commonly inside of basic shared hosting web hosts, reseller web hosts, and all that. So, you know, if you're out there and you're still shopping around, you're watching this video about object caching, you know, make sure you do your research on whatever host you decide to sign up with so you know if they offer it or not, because there's nothing worse than getting your payment submitted and setting up everything only to find out that it's not available. So, you know, this is something they charge extra for, but it is offered, and much is the same with many other web hosts out there. Now, to set this up, it is extremely easy, especially if you are one of our shared or reseller web hosts, because we have everything set up. You just have to configure your website for it. So what I want to do is, if you have an account with us currently, or if you're looking at signing up, you can follow along. I'm actually logged in now. So if you're not logged in, hover over here, click log in, and head over to the NameHero client area, because that's where I'm going to begin this tutorial. So once you are logged in, you're going to see just the main dashboard. We want to navigate over to the web hosting account that we want to enable object caching on. So basically, we want to get the cPanel. So if you have one of our basic hosting accounts, I'm going to use the account keydiets.com down here at the bottom. So I'm just going to click it, and I can access cPanel from right here or right here. So I'm just going to log into cPanel. And of course, you can also go to yourdomain.whatever/cPanel, and it'll pull this up as well. You also have the links in your welcome email. So plenty of places to get the cPanel. So once I'm inside of here, I've got to install WordPress, because I just set up a brand new hosting account just for this video's purpose. So I'm going to go down here to Softaculous and install WordPress really quick. And, you know, I like to show this in all my videos, so I'm starting from the beginning just so I don't leave anything out for those that are just getting started. So I'm just going to do a basic WordPress install. I just want it in the root directory, so when you go to Key Diets, it shows up WordPress and not in a subdirectory. And I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to leave everything else default. I've got a strong username and password. You know, these are probably the two of the most important things, as well as, you know, choosing if you want it in the root directory or in a subdirectory. But you want to make sure these are strong. And also make sure you copy these in a good place so you don't lose them. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and install it. It just takes a quick second to install, nothing too hard. All right, now we want to go to the WordPress admin. So of course, WordPress has its main page and then its administrative area. And we need to install the Lightspeed caching plugin. So Lightspeed is the web server we use at NameHero. It's up to 10 times faster than your traditional Apache web server, which you see at many other web hosts, but it is a drop-in replacement, meaning that if you use mod rewrites or basically your website will still use the same configuration if you have it at another host using Apache. And once you come to NameHero, you don't have to change anything. It will still just work, but faster. So I like to remind people of that, because sometimes we'll get questions that, you know, switching to Lightspeed, do I have to change anything? And the answer is no. All right, but we do have to add the Lightspeed plugin, because that's not, even though it's enabled, it's not automatically inserted on your site. We're not going to ever add a plugin or anything to your website, you know, unless you specifically ask. So we'll go to Plugins, Add New, and we'll just type in here Lightspeed. That's enough to bring it up. Lightspeed and enter. Now you can see Lightspeed cache. And, you know, I always like to recommend you look at the reviews and the active installs before you add a plugin to WordPress. just because this tells us that it's a good plugin, because it's got 644 5-star reviews with over 600,000 active installs. So that's that's quite the accomplishment there. You want to look at, when you're installing plugins, are other people using it? Are they reviewing it well? Because you don't want to install junk on your site. So we'll click install now, and it just takes a second. It's actually going to download it and install it, and click activate. And now it's added. So now Lightspeed cache is enabled. So now if I go to my site, I don't have anything here. It's just a basic page. It's already going to load fast, but when you first add Lightspeed cache, if you have an active website, you'll probably notice another speed jump there, not just from moving to NameHero, but by adding caching to it. But now we need to go into the settings to activate the object cache. So this is the Lightspeed cache settings, and there's a lot of stuff here that you can change. A lot of the caching seconds, and you can really get specific. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, I always recommend just leave everything to the default. And if you notice stuff, you can do some research and you can start changing this stuff. Or if you have a developer you're working with or whatnot, or you can even ask our team if you notice anything about your site being slow, and we can modify this stuff. But really, the defaults work for the majority of websites out there. Now, object caching is disabled by default, and that much of that goes back to what it says in this article. It's just using the Lightspeed cache plugin. There's really not a huge need to do it, but it is an option, and we do have a request for it because there are sites out there that are very database intensive, meaning that a lot of their pages are rendering a lot of database calls, and they're always looking for ways to make that faster. So this is one way to do that. So what we want to do is we have to go to the advanced options. So we'll click show advanced options. And that brings up a bunch more categories here. So now we'll go back over to advanced, so another advanced setting. And you can see, the warnings are pretty strong here. Only access this if you know what you're doing specifically. And you can see Memcache extension enabled, Redis extension enabled, and the connection test has passed. So if you're not seeing these enabled inside of your Lightspeed plugin, let me show you how to do that. So we'll go back over here to cPanel. We just want to go back to the main page of cPanel and just type in PHP and go to select PHP version. And you can see I've selected 7.2. And if you have the native version, let's click native, because it could be default whatever node you're on. And if we go back here to settings and refresh, you're going to see these are disabled. So this is a common support ticket that we'll get when people are wanting to enable the object cache. It's like, well, it's disabled. Well, you actually have to go into the selector, select 7.2 or whatever version you want to run. If you want to go higher, you can, but I think 7.2 is probably the most stable release of PHP right now. 7.3 is out there, but there is some plugins and stuff that's not quite up to speed. But to enable Memcache and Redis, you have to actually check these boxes here. So here's Memcache right here, and Redis is right here. So you can see these are checked. And they might not be checked by default, because I don't think they are, but this specific demo account, I've actually checked them here. But if they're not checked, I'll show you what it looks like. So if I don't check them and I save, I can go back in here and it'll still say disabled. So this is important because, again, we see this in the support department. So I want to make sure I check these. And you don't have to, of course, you can't use both. You have to use one or the other. I personally am a Memcache fan, but you might want to use Redis as well, or either one. But it's all up to how you want to do it. So once you do that, you can see now it's passed the connection test and both of them are enabled. So now you can choose which one. So by default, Memcache is the object storage of choice, but you can click Redis and do that as well. So whichever one you want to use, and you can go down here. There's no need for the username and password. There are some global groups that you can choose, and these are basically tables inside of your database. And of course, you do not want to cache some of these things like comments and counts and plugins, because it could make content live and new content not show up in time. So you can of course choose the groups you do not want to cache. But here's the global groups, and of course you can you set one per line, and same with the do not cache stuff. There's some other settings such as persistent connection. This keeps keep alive on. And this, of course, keeps the session alive. You might find if keeping too much persistent connections could actually slow down the website if you're getting a lot of hits. So you can, of course, test that. Store transactions. This will save transitions in the database when the cache WP admin is off. And of course, you can learn more about that here. Just leave that default unless you specifically know what you're doing. And cache WP admin, this if you're this is your admin area you're in. So you might want to disable this because, if you're using a page builder, a page editor inside of WP admin, you may encounter PHP session expirations, session timeouts, and all that stuff because you're actually caching that. So you might want to disable that, but it's really up to you. The browser cache, this is off. So browser caching stores static files locally in the browser. Turning this on will reduce repeated requests for the static files. So this will actually edit your htaccess file. And of course you can turn it on, and we can turn this on our admin end. You don't have access on a shared account. So, I would just leave this off because it's going to store this in the browser. So you can turn it's either way, whatever you want to do. And feel free to test both ways, test this page speed of your site. But really just enabling the object caching is going to get that extra boost of speed if you need it, and you're really getting nitpicky when you go through these settings. But again, everything's up to you how you want to run your site. Of course, if you do enable the browser cache, here's the time to live and the check advanced cache. This is going to actually check that file to signal the cache is active. If you have a login cookie, now this is important. If you're using like membership software for people or customers to log into your site, you might need to put what the login cookie is so it keeps that session alive when they're logging into your website. So this gets a little bit more on the complicated end, and you need to check with whoever you're using for that membership area. So if it's basically just a WordPress login, then that might be a lot easier, and you can see there's stuff in here about there's a WordPress installed at example, another WordPress installed at /blog. The cache has to distinguish which site they're trying to access. So this is for dual installs of WordPress under the same directory. So again, gets a little bit more complicated with login cookies, but you can just leave it all default and test your site first. And of course, we can do purging the hooks of the site, as well as improving the HTTP/HTTPS compatibility. So if you're using both HTTP and HTTPS, meaning you're using secure and non-secure, you could turn this on, but I don't see people really doing that. It's 2019. Most everyone uses HTTPS with a secure certificate because it is free and automatic at NameHero. So you can probably just leave this off. An instant click, when a visitor hovers over a page, it preloads the page. Some people like to turn this on, but it does increase your load inside your hosting account. So, if you get a lot of hits, this will probably start to eat up a lot of the CPU under your account. So I know we have had requests for it, and our support teams help people configure it. So again, basically if someone is on Key Diets and they hover over like this archive link, it'll automatically begin preloading that page. So if they do click on it, it loads really fast. But you can see it's already going to load fast, and I'll show you an example. I'll just turn it on for a second here. And if we go back, let's go to my blog dashboard. I'm just trying to clear it out here a second. And let's go to a page we have not been to, so like uncategorized. See how fast that was? Again, it's probably going to be almost just as fast as far as you can tell to the naked eye, but it will speed it up because it's essentially loading the page in the background. But again, if you see your CPU limits getting higher, and you can see those right inside of cPanel, you want to be careful. So like down here under statistics, you'll start to see, if you start to see CPU usage or memory usage coming up in here, and if it approaches that, it'll be yellow. So again, you're not seeing it here, but again, I have no traffic on this site. Then you might want to reconsider putting that on your site or whatnot. But you can see you saw a little bit of the cache come out there. So this is in WP admin. This is you're seeing this here because I just enabled that. And so that's an issue that I have seen before. So that's because of that browser caching or that instant click caching setting. So let's go back there and we'll just turn it off. So we would want to, actually, if we did that, we would want to turn off the admin caching, the WP admin caching. So let's go down here. Where was that? Browser cache, advanced cache, browser cache right here. Okay, so we would turn this back on and save changes. Let's see if we get that again here. So we go back to refresh, dashboard. Yeah, see that's, again, we're still going to get that there. If we refresh it, it's good, but again, I've seen this with the instant click. So we're just going to turn that off, save, and let's see if we still get it here on refresh. Boom, let's go to the site, not getting it. Let's go back to dashboard. See, we're not going to get it there. So that's part of the instant click, is it can cause, some intermittent issues with loading your WP admin. So again, that's why I say when you go through these settings, enabling it, that's great. So, and you know what? I didn't turn it on. So I guess let's turn it on here. Let's make sure it is enabled. So it's enabled, and we go back here, and we go to our site. visit site, bam. So you can see, again, it's really fast, it makes it even faster, but it's not an end-all be-all. So, if you're just a new WordPress customer or just getting started with your website, you're probably not going to need object caching, but it is there if you do need it. Now, those of you that are running e-commerce stores, WooCommerce is popular, you might want to consider adding object caching. And, I recommend too, do some testing, because you never know until you do it if it's going to work. Now, if it's going to speed up your site, because there is things such as overcompensating, over-optimization. So you want to make sure it's kind of a balancing act, and it's all dependent on your site, how many visitors you're getting, and what you're doing with your site. If you're over-optimizing or not. So a good one is going to gtmetrics.com and testing the page speed, and turning stuff on, turning stuff off, and seeing how it responds. Now, when you're going to edit stuff like this, it's always good to do it during downtime, doing it when you're not getting a bunch of traffic or not middle of the day when you're getting a lot of customers or visitors, because you don't want to mess up your website, while people are on it. So I always caution that before you go in and start editing the Lightspeed cache settings, or, especially start doing something as large as turning on object caching. You want to make sure that you do it when it's a downtime, schedule it late in the evening, early in the morning, turn it on and test everything first. If you're accepting orders, make sure that users are able to add stuff to their cart, do a checkout. If you have people log in, make sure they can log in still. Once they are logged in, make sure it's handling that session cookie and all that. And then you might find yourself having to, check out some of these settings. And I think Lightspeed's done a really good job with adding learn more links all through here. And if I go back to this wiki I was on, inside of here, they answer almost any question that you're going to have with this stuff. Now, this kind of goes outside of NameHero's support scope. So like, if you're getting really specific with settings, it's impossible for us to train all our techs on every single website and, what exactly you're going to do with your site. So they can help, as far as they can, and then give their input. But we can't 100% say, well, these are the settings for your site that we know works, because you only know your site. Your site better than anyone else does. So just keep that in mind, but feel free to reach out to our team if you have any questions with this, and we'll work with you the best we can. But all of this is available 100% free at NameHero. And, it does speed up the site, and it's a great feature to have. And again, if you are a reseller, your customers, they're going to like this, especially if you have a customer that, uses object caching or, really needs it. They're going to really appreciate you being able to offer that. And that also gives you the ability as a reseller to make your packages a bit more expensive, because again, other web hosts out there, and not knocking the A2, because it's a good idea to charge more for such on their packages. So, you can do the same as a reseller. At NameHero, we've just made the decision that as of now, things can always change in the future, but of course, anyone that's on now will continue to get it, the object cache, for free. And it's available for all the packages, regardless if you're on the starter or the business. So feel free to let us know if you have any questions on this. If you run into any issues with something not being enabled, if you have problems enabling Memcache or Redis, or using either one of them, feel free to let us know. We'd be more than happy to dive in and do some troubleshooting and help you out. And as well as the settings, again, we can't specifically say these settings work for every site, but we can take a look and see if there's any issues right off the bat. But of course, don't ever guess. Please test your site with and without. Do it late in the evening. Make sure you don't interrupt your browser's viewing or your user's browsing experience. So let us know if you have any questions. Feel free to comment on this video if this helped you out. And I know this is a bit more of an advanced stuff out there, but feel free to give us a thumbs up on YouTube, because that lets me know you enjoyed this content and to produce more, getting really into the optimization behind your site, behind WordPress and databases. But thanks for watching and using us here at NameHero.com.